At Highbury, when I first got here, they had some recycling in place, and Dom and I spoke about perhaps increasing the recycling that's done at Highbury. So I guess the first thing we looked at was getting people in to help with our recycling, especially with our grow bin, because they had tried to do green recycling before, but it hadn't been very successful using the method of composting the materials. So that was our first port of call, was to try and get a lot of industry in to see what we could do with all the things that we wanted to recycle.
The whole being of Sustainable September was just having a good hard look at what we were doing at school and the rubbish that was being accumulated, and we were just generating so much rubbish. So just in for this area between 3 classes, we were doing 2 roadside curb bins a week.
Wow.
Yeah, so there was a huge volume of rubbish, so I started thinking about that we should be trying to reduce that. And then I went to management, and we spoke about the concept of taking rubbish bins out and making people more accountable for their rubbish, and they were really supportive and jumped on that idea really quickly. And we started with Sustainable September, so we put it to parents as a trial for September that all rubbish brought into school had to be taken away, and we took away the bins straight away. Any packaging from lunchboxes had to be taken home. Also included, if they buy ice blocks at school, they've got to take the sticks and the papers home, and any lunch orders, they need to take the packaging home. So there's classroom bins for, you know, cellophane or any other land waste that can't be disposed, that can't be recycled. So there is classroom bins for teaching generated rubbish.
I think with the staff, and it's also the same with students as well, if you give them all the information at once, it's really, really overwhelming. So with the staff, what I did every week is I did a bin. So one week we did the grow bin, and I talked about everything that could go in the grow bin, and then I gave them some written information about it as well. Very simple information that they could have in their classroom and remind them of the kind of things that could go in. So I just did a bin a week and talked to them about it that way. And I did the same thing with the students too, because like I said, it is very overwhelming if you're not used to recycling. So with staff, kids and myself, my cleaners got involved, and admin got involved, parents got involved. It was just everybody was trying to do the right thing, was really awesome.
The majority of the school supported. There was a few families that were complaining that they were sending packaging to school, and what's the difference between us disposing of it as to them taking home and disposing of the rubbish. And the reason why we did it was because we wanted parents to be more accountable for the rubbish, and so we thought that if we're educating the students about not generating rubbish, then they'll be educating their parents. And also there's a lot of food waste in the bin, so we wanted parents to know that if there's any food wasted, it was to remain in the lunchbox, so then they could modify school lunches.
My big role in it was, as a science teacher, I could teach across the whole school, and that was really beneficial. Being able to teach the same thing to all students across the school and get the same message to them all and keep following it up, I think was really, really helpful to getting all the kids engaged in what we were doing.
Well, we are doing cross-curriculum sustainability, like in our units of inquiry. One of them is sharing the planet, and so that comes heavily in that section. It's more, not so much in the curriculum, but a way of daily routines. So each class is responsible for their own rubbish, and that's composting. So they have compost each lunchtime, and then each week they're emptying their landfill and their recycling bins, and they're checking them as well. We're also trying to encourage different use of resources instead of using paper and photocopying all the time. So chalkboards, and we've got facades in the yard. Often people go up there and they use the chalkboards for their lessons, and just trying to teach in different ways which are motivating the students as well.
One of the really noticeable things is how much the junior primary kids have taken it on. And I think that's if you're going to start anywhere, if you're limited and can't start with the whole school, definitely start with the junior primary, because they actually get quite upset when there's something has to go in landfill. I had to repeat things a lot with the young ones just to get them to know what went where. So quite often they'd say to me, where does this go? And if I said landfill, it was like, oh no, you know. So they took it on in a big way. And if you go into the junior primary classes, you'll find a lot of them don't have plastic in their lunch boxes. A lot of them have bought new lunch boxes with all the compartments in them. They've bought the lunch wraps, and they come up and show me those things all the time, and they're really, really keen on it.
Kids are taking more responsibility for their rubbish. I think it's also them being probably more aware of what happens in the whole disposal of landfill, and they realise that, you know, our landfill space is so limited, so they need to be more responsible for using alternatives to packaging. So if you walk around the yard, there is a lot more, like the lunch boxes that are brought in have the individual compartments, so they're not using there's a lot less packaging.
So this is a lunch wrap. There's different companies that sell them, and they're reusable, so you can keep using them forever. And so what happens is you put your lunch sandwich in there, you wrap it up, and away you go. And it actually keeps it quite fresh. Some people are a bit worried about not using Glad wrap, that it will get stale. And of course you've got something to eat your lunch off when you've finished. So they are really good.
So the uniform shop's one of the first places that families visit, because they have a fitting, and so that's promoted different lunch skins and drink bottles and colourful lunch boxes to match their house teams.
The kids were really, really interested in it. It really surprised me how interested they were and how much they took it on. I think some of that comes from my passion, because I've always been a recycler from a long time ago. And so I think sometimes when you've got somebody who's really passionate about it, and you've got other staff who are passionate, it rubs off onto everybody else.
The Year 5-6 students are pretty motivational across the school, and leadership as well. And then there's a couple of middle school teachers who really drive it up there as well. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
And
other staff, they're supportive, so they do support the ideas that we put out there and through their classroom practice.
Our first target was to recycle, so we improved all of our recycling across the whole school. So this now we're doing that's sort of in maintenance mode. So now we're moving into trying to reduce what's going into landfill. So we've started to have, starting next week, nude food days. So every Wednesday from now on will be a nude food day.